Good morning. Well, after my little trip into Numbers and the looking at the red heifer, we're back again to the book of Leviticus to see exactly what it was that Moses was doing with the people and how he was instructing them. One of the things they had to do was to be careful in case any disease came into the camp. And one of the big things they were always terrified of was leprosy. So if you look into the book of Leviticus, you'll see how the priests were instructed to examine people to find out whether or not they were suffering from leprosy. They were told exactly what they should look for and how they should examine the person and how they should be sure that this wasn't just some sort of rash on the skin, but if it was leprosy, then that person should be put outside the camp. They were terrified in case this thing should become infectious and that people could be therefore destroyed by it being there. They were put outside the camp. Food was taken to them outside the camp, but it was a terrifying illness as far as they were concerned. When you had this particular illness, all the different extremities of the body would start to waste away. You'd have great big sores developing on the body. They couldn't understand it. They didn't know what it was all about. They just put these people outside of the camp. They fed them, they looked after them, but they were told they're not to come into the camp. But I want to sort of point this out to you because if you go to the 14th chapter of Leviticus, you'll see there instructions given to them to find out how they were to discern if leprosy had been healed and what they were supposed to do. Now, this is interesting for us because leprosy was never healed. I mean, there was one case of Naaman, he was healed, but he wasn't even a Jew. But leprosy was never healed. And so the people said, if this instruction is in Leviticus to discern what to do if a person is healed, why is it there if nobody is ever healed of leprosy? And the only answer the rabbis could give, of course, was that when Messiah comes, he will be able to heal lepers. Now, I want to point this out to you because when we look into the New Testament, we find that Jesus had the ability to heal leprosy. And I want to point out one special occasion. He was traveling towards Jerusalem. Now, everybody knew that the confrontation was going to take place between him and the different rabbis. He was traveling towards Jerusalem when he came across a group of 10 lepers. They called out to him and asked him to have mercy on them because they had heard that he was able to heal leprosy. So he sends them to the priests in Jerusalem, and we are told that as they journeyed, they were healed. Now, I want you to read, if you can, the 14th chapter of Leviticus to see exactly what would have happened when they arrived in Jerusalem. All the instructions about what had to be done. Everything the priests had to do. It was a long, complicated procedure before they could finally be given the certificate of cleansing. Because without that certificate of cleansing, they would not be able to go back to their own homes or be with their families or take up their social life. But it was a long process. So when these 10 lepers arrived in Jerusalem and presented themselves to the priests, this had to be done 10 times in probably 10 different places. These sacrifices had to be offered. All these examinations had to take place. And after the period of time when it was finally proven that the leprosy had been healed, certificates of cleansing were therefore granted to the people. I wonder what was going on in the minds of the rabbis and priests in Jerusalem when they realized this had happened. See, they wanted to stop this man from preaching. They wanted to stop him from teaching. Now here he was healing 10 lepers and causing them to go through all these procedures to examine these people and causing them to declare that these people had been healed of this terrible scourge of leprosy and issuing the certificates of cleansing, and still knowing that when he finally arrived in Jerusalem, they were going to try to put him down and, in fact, destroy him. Right at the very beginning of his ministry, he'd caused confusion by healing a leper. He'd sent the leper, he said, go and show yourself to the priests. So right at the very beginning of his ministry, he had done the same thing. And he had done it throughout his ministry. And on every occasion, they would have had to go through these procedures recorded for you in the 14th chapter of Leviticus. They'd have had to go through all of these procedures to prove that they were healed. And they still would not accept him as Messiah because they were terrified that through his teaching, the people would turn away from them who were the leaders of Israel and start to break the laws which they thought might destroy their nation. It's amazing how blind people can be. They were blind then, but perhaps we may have the same blindness even at the present day. Let us be careful we are looking to see what Jesus is doing and to acknowledge it and to ask for his blessing through it. Amen.